Hi, readers. I'm Jordan,
And I'm Katie.
and welcome to Not Another Heroine, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines, those swashbuckling ladies who have to work a little harder than expected for their happy ending.
This week, it's time to review our heroine in a Q&A session better titled, We Want Conflict, God Damn It.
I don't know
We
if
are
we're starting this one. Okay, well, welcome to the Q&A for the Elf Tangent.
Q&A, gossip session. Are we going to talk about the book? Probably not that much.
No, not at all. We're gonna try and behave and stick to our questions, but we might just have a couple tangents.
Ha, ha, ha. That was very funny, very amusing, very clever.
It felt a little forced that time, so I'm sorry, readers.
Probably because we're kind of over talking about this book already.
Yeah, just a little bit. This might be a little bit shorter than our other Q&A sessions, but we'll try. We'll make it interesting.
I could see that.
I'm pretty excited to announce our next couple books. What do you
I am
think?
too. Yeah. Do you want to announce it right now?
No, let's make them wait till the end. Like you got to listen to our questions. You got to earn it.
They just like fast forward through it the whole thing. They're like, oh, nice. Okay. Not going to go back and listen to this.
What's the next? Yeah. What's the next book? Well, okay. So we'll get through the questions as fast as we possibly can. Maybe.
Well, we'll see. 45 minutes later.
Yeah. That seems to be what happens to us.
Yeah. We always say, yep. It's like, oh, this is going to be like a way shorter episode. And then it's like an hour and 5 minutes later.
That was episode 12.
Yep.
It'll be like 30 minutes. No, it was not.
No, it was not. It was a full-length episode.
Okay. First question. Staying on track. I will.
Yes.
I promise to stay on track this time. Maybe.
LOL. Okay.
But if we talk about the gliders, no promises.
The gliders.
All right. What do you think the author's purpose was in writing this book? Like, what was the idea she was trying to get across?
So do we mean this in like a capitalistic way or in like a literary value way?
Both.
Okay. So from the like capitalistic, like making like a book enterprise kind of way, I feel like she just needed a standalone book because I think most of her other books are series. And so she probably wanted something that like is a little bit less of an investment for people. From like a literary perspective, I feel like she wanted something like fun that's a little bit less, I can't think of a good word, but like, like dramatic. Like, I feel like a lot of standalone books recently in this like genre of like romance and fantasy are sometimes trying too hard or like too full of themselves. And so this one was very like, yep, we're just going to come out here and have a good time and then it'll be done.
I could see that on both ends, especially. I mean, on the first part, though, with her just trying to get a standalone out and, make some money and draw some readers in, I have mixed feelings about that because I have a writer friend. I've mentioned her a few times, and she has so many ideas living in her head. She just hasn't gotten around to doing them all. So I wonder maybe this was just one that she's always wanted to do.
I could see that.
Didn't have the time or the focus to sit down and do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Because it is a pretty hefty book. Isn't it like 400 something pages? Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty certain. Yeah. It was a chonker.
Through a big portion of it. Did you just call this book a chonker?
Yeah, it was chonkers.
I do have a confession to make
about
this book, about this author.
Oh no.
It's not a bad one. I did inadvertently lie to you and to our readers. I have read this author before. I just didn't remember it. Yes. So I did this author a huge disservice because I went to the Emperor's Edge series, the one that you recommended, and I went to buy it on the Kindle store and I already owned it. And I I had
Oh.
started reading it in February of last year.
Probably when we,
when we first
Basically-
talked about it.
yep.
I did not finish it. I think I got maybe 20 or 30% of the way in, but it wasn't because it was bad. Like, I think it just was a little bit slower paced. Thank God, compared to this one.
That's fair.
And I wasn't drawn in right away, but I do remember like liking the main character, liking the idea, and the writing style was very good. So I see why so I'm sorry.
What an interesting reveal. I had no idea. Oh, because the
I couldn't
Emperor's
wait to
Edge
tell you
series.
about this.
I know. That was so exciting. Because like the Emperor's Edge series is definitely, and I think that's probably the difference between like this one and that series, and like probably my expectations too, is that one was like so drawn out in like not drawn out in a bad way, I would say, but it was the pacing was like representative of a 7 or 8 book series, and like she wasn't going to rush anything, and you really have to work for the romance at the end, and so it almost makes it like a little bit sweeter. It's like those TV shows that go on for like 21 seasons and they, the main characters don't get together until like season 19.
Okay, so Bones. I think this is why you and I both enjoyed Bones. Like that long, drawn out romance between Booth and Bones.
Yep.
It's just perfect.
I'm rewatching it for like the 8th time.
I remember vividly the episode where Bones thinks Booth is dead. And she like loses her mind. And like it's like the realization episode.
Yep. That there's like a scene like that in The Emperor's Edge. Like there's a couple of them, because obviously not that we're going to turn this elf tangent episode into like an Emperor's Edge episode, but like maybe for a little bit. There's like a couple scenes in that, because he's like an assassin and she's just like a police officer that has been like wrongly accused of, whatever crimes, and so they're on the same side towards the end of the first book, I think. But anyway, so like obviously a dangerous profession, and there's a couple of those scenes that are just like fucking heart-wrenching, and you're like, oh my God, but they won't admit that they love each other. But it's fine because it's so sweet.
It's the like the back and forth and the will they or won't they kind of trope.
Yeah.
I think I love that. I'm like neither one of them knows, and they're always second guessing the other one until like there's a do or die moment.
Yep. Oh my God. I'm like smiling
I got
really hard. My cheeks hurt.
I got warm fuzzies just thinking about that, like that episode in particular.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why the Elf Tangents romance kind of fell flat for me, because there wasn't any doubt really ever through the whole thing. Like it was always like very obvious from the beginning, like, okay, this is the love interest, and like there's no conflict in their like relationship, which is kind of wild because like there should be like a significant conflict, speaking like he's her kidnapper, but
yeah. That was the huge problematic element in this book, was that the way it started. But that was also something I noticed just in the books that I do enjoy, because we've kind of had a string of books that we're not huge fans of recently. Like, and we haven't talked about all of the books we're currently reading on this podcast. There's too many books and not enough time to record every episode about them. But the romance angles that I tend to enjoy in these fantasy books are the ones where the relationship, there is like a duration of like, or like a period where they don't know. Like there's that questioning aspect, that will they, won't they. There's conflict on both ends. And if it comes together too easily and the romance is just, oh, yep, it's definitely happening, and then the plot is what keeps you reading, I tend to not like those as much.
Yep, I don't either. Because I feel like the timing of the plot and the timing of the romance need to be in sync. Because if you end one too early, you lose your readers like at the 70% mark. And I've had that a lot with books, where I'll get like almost to the finish line and I'll stop because it's like, oh, they got together. There's like no more conflict. Like I think the authors who are really pros at that kind of line up those times like almost identically. So it's like within, 20 or 30 pages, you get the final and the romance end.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I don't need to like keep going afterwards.
ACOTAR does that really well. book
They
2.
do. Yeah.
Like, I
I
think book
agree.
2 is all romantic conflict. Like, will they, won't
Mm-hmm.
they?
Yep.
That's the entire
Yeah.
book. And it works.
Yeah. It's, I, and that's an interesting, I think we've probably talked about this, but like the difference between fantasy romance and then like romance with hints of fantasy is like, is the romance the plot, or is there a separate plot that stands alone without the romance? And I kind of feel like there's bits of ACOTAR that are like in question about whether it's like there's an outside plot or not, but at least the
Yeah,
romance
I
is
would agree
like
with that.
engaging enough, you know?
Hmm. I think if you have the right division, right, like 50-50 on both, that's where
Mm-hmm.
you want to stay.
Yeah.
And also, if the timing is right, like if you stack the romance line along with the plot, then it doesn't matter if it's a romantic fantasy or a romance with a fantasy background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah. Do we want to do another question?
I think
I can
yes.
ask one.
I think we should.
Yeah. Did the characters seem believable to you?
Do you really want to ask me that question?
I do. Yep.
um, to an extent, right? Like they're all of these characters seem like exaggerated versions of a cliche.
Mm.
Like, what's her face? I don't even remember her name. The main chick,
Ellie or
princess
Aldari?
Aldari. Aldari seems like she's just a little bit too much of everything. She's either too sweet or too smart or too innocent or too forward. Like there is no balance. Like the idea of her character, like this scholarly princess, is cool on the surface, but she just wasn't believable, especially with that whole issue we had with her, like wanting to protect her kingdom and save it, but like her actions never lined up with that intent.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Because I even wrote like in my notes that I wish we had gotten like more internal monologue scenes from Aldari instead of maybe some of the like fight scenes. Almost like repurposing those sections into something internal monologue. Just I feel like it would have been more impactful or more believable if she was a bit more begrudging about her attraction to Hawk. If it was almost like, despite all of her, thoughts and like her feelings on everything, she's like, oh no, he's nice and hot and I kind of like him. But instead it was just immediately like full send, like, oh, he's probably a great person and I love him. It's like, no, he's your kidnapper. Let's maybe, have a little bit of judgment first.
that voice is exactly what I expected her to have.
Yep.
like, like little goody two shoes kind of, yeah. So, yeah, none of the characters seemed particularly believable because they were just too much. Like, Thelly was probably the most believable.
Yeah, because she was kind of pissed off about being kidnapped. I think she was the only one. And I feel like pissed off would probably be the primary emotion you're feeling at that point.
Right? Like, and she made like several dedicated efforts to fix their situation.
Yeah, I think it would have been more realistic if we had more anger and then more kind of like begrudging romance instead of just immediately like, oh, I'm just going to get over all these moral hurdles and just fall in love.
Yeah, be totally fine with it. Yeah.
Yep.
There was, I was reading a couple different reviews, not this book, another book, and it was people who were complaining about how there was too much time spent in the character's head. Like they don't like that internal kind of meandering monologues. They would rather have more action scenes. So I wonder if that's more just a personal preference thing, like we like. And I mean, every reader is different. Words are hard.
They are.
Every reader wants something. Every reader finds something like that speaks to them differently.
I can see that.
So you and I prefer the like internal doubt and worry and monologue and like a glimpse into the character's head. I think there are some people who just prefer to skip all that.
Yeah. I think there's a balance that you can strike there between internal monologue and action. But I think what we really had trouble with on this book is that there was probably a lot of internal, I don't even know the right word, negotiating maybe between like Aldari's conscious and Aldari's like heart, so to say. But none of that was relayed in the book, like for the reader. And so I think even if that was relayed via actions, like, because I know she tried to escape, but it always felt kind of caveated, like she wasn't really trying to escape. And so you could even have actions that are her trying to escape or her fighting, Hawk, or just being a total dick to him just to be the, non-compliant prisoner kind of thing. That would have worked too if you didn't want to do internal monologue. But some kind of moral reasoning. Like, why is she just all of a sudden okay with this?
And for a character that's supposedly really smart, like smarter than anyone else in the world, including the Elf Kingdom.
They found her to go solve this puzzle.
Yeah, I expected someone that intelligent to be a little bit snarkier.
Yeah. Or even if you wanted to go full send almost in the other direction, so thinking back to Bones, Bones, I don't know if it's like legit or not, but there's like been a lot of discussion over the years that she has Asperger's, like her character. And even the actress has been like, yeah, I tried to play her in a way that kind of portrays that super logical, not wanting to be really emotional or not maybe understanding emotions. And so that would have been a kind of a cool characterization of Aldari if she is super logical and analytical and just doesn't have emotions the same way that someone that's like neurotypical would be. That would be a fun characterization, and how like Hawk has to try like extra hard to, like say like, hey, I like you and, I want to protect you and we should have a relationship. And she's like, well, I don't care about any of that. Like emotions don't make sense. Like that would be a fun characterization too. But it was just too like in the middle almost. Like,
yeah, it was like almost like she was designed to appeal to everyone.
Yeah. No, you got to be aggressive about one kind of character trait.
Yeah. It's like the Bella syndrome, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The blank page.
Which, it has its place. Like it can be successful. Evidence A. $1 million
Twilight
franchise, but
literally.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that is a great segue to we're not going to be talking, we're not going to review Twilight in the next couple books, but we will be doing Twilight.
It's on the list.
It is on the list, and we have a special gift to you, dear readers.
If you could call it that.
You might disagree upon after listening to it, but we have invited our dear friend to read Twilight. He has never read it, ever. He has seen the movies, and then we're going to bring him on to the pod and kind of hear what he has to say. We'll follow the same format, and he'll get to add his 2 cents in to what he thinks about Bella and Edward.
It is going to be a humbling experience, especially because Rob has not read a lot of romance. He's one of those like hardcore sci-fi fantasy, like the high fantasy stuff. And it's like, I feel like me and Jordan kind of like that romance fantasy.
He likes, I will say this for Rob. He has excellent taste in literature. He likes literature with a capital L.
Yep.
And sometimes he just won't pick a book up unless it's good enough, So
we're going to force him to read. Yep. So he has to read cult fiction.
Yeah. But, he did offer, like he volunteered for this one.
That's true. Yeah. This is not us inflicting some kind of punishment upon him.
Yes. So I can't wait for everyone to meet Rob and his opinions, especially on such a, I don't know, there's not enough words on the planet to describe what Twilight is.
Nope. I'm so excited because I haven't read it since, I don't even know. I was in like middle school, high school, maybe. I've seen the movies, obviously, 1,800,000 times. but not the books. So it's going to be intriguing, scary.
Yeah. It's been since high school since I've read those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we should also put it out there that Katie and I are not Twilight haters at all.
I love the Twilight movie. That is my comfort movie. I put that shit on all the fucking time.
I'm a less of a fan of the movies, but I did adore the book. I didn't like I read the series. I didn't read the series more than once, but like Twilight book 1, that was like I read it several times in high school. Yeah,
I can see that.
So if you hate Twilight, just skip those episodes because we don't have room for you.
Nope. This is a pro Twilight podcast.
Which we are going to get some flack on that one, but all of that flack will come from Rob, almost certainly.
Yeah. He'll be the live adversarial audience.
Ugh, goodness, that's going to be an adventure.
Yeah.
You know, we did promise to talk about the elf tangent this episode. We've managed to get a few questions in.
Yep. Yeah. We've talked more about like Akatar, Bones, and Twilight than I think we have the actual and the Emperor's Edge.
But it's fun. It's, you know, hopefully it's fun for you all as well.
Yeah.
I mean, more questions?
Yes. To bring it back to the elf tangent, but I'm also expecting 45 seconds in, it'll divert into some other book.
Almost certainly.
So if you could hear the same story from another person's point of view, who would you choose?
Oh, Thelly. Like, hands down, Thelly.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. I was going to go with like Hawk or something, so you can kind of get he needs to self-flagellate a little bit about kidnapping some princess.
Do you think the himbo even has like an internal dialogue? Like, do you think no? Yeah. There would be no
I'm shaking my head, no.
We were talking before we started today's episode. We were talking about, the Pantene hair.
No thoughts, just
the
hair.
Pantene moment. Yeah. And I don't know, have you actually seen the movie The Lost City?
I haven't. Because Sandra Bullock's in it, right?
Yeah. It's very kitschy, but it's funny. And there's a scene. So Channing Tatum plays the stereotypical romance hero, like cover model. So the movie is about a romance novelist. She writes like adventure romance novels, and her cover model is Channing Tatum, and he's got the typical Fabio blonde hair, white billowing shirt, standing there holding a horse. And all I could picture when you were talking about the Pantene hair moment was just Channing Tatum in this blonde wig, just
going for it.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah, I think that's Aldari and Hawk right there.
Yep. That's exactly how I pictured the moment at the end of this book where they're trying to find like, oh no, we need a prince to do this. And he just kind of like stares off into the distance like, I'm that prince. And you're kind of like, what the fuck is happening?
This is the one time Aldari's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yep. The like wind comes in, but it's only blowing on him. It's like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Thelly's point of view would be way more satisfying than probably any other ones. Or it would almost be funny as like a satire if it was from Setvic.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Setvic would have such snarky comments for everything.
Yeah, it'd be like a satire of romance movies. Like you're watching the two characters. It's like he literally kidnapped her. Like, why is she falling in love? Like his observations of this very stereotypical romance.
Yeah, that would be like, I don't like this bitch, but come on, please.
Yeah. That would be entertaining. I would read that as like a fun kind of parody sort of thing.
Yeah, give me like one solid chapter from Setvic's perspective. I normally don't like perspective hopping in books.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be worth it for this one.
Yep. As a little like comedy break halfway through.
Okay. I'm looking at my list of questions here. So If you got the chance to ask the author of this book, not The Emperor's Edge,
Okay. Fair.
one question, what would you ask Lindsay Buroker?
I would want to know like how much research she did into like puzzles in botany. Because there's that whole like what was it, like 75%, 70% into the book where it kind of divulges into botany, like golden ratio.
Yeah.
Like, did she just have that in her head? And she's like, okay, I'll write a book to like reflect all this knowledge that I just have. Or did she have to do some like major research into like mathematical formulas?
Maybe that's why this book seems all over the place, because if she just pulled this out of her ass, like she just has this fountain of knowledge about random topics, like maybe that explains why it bounces around so much.
Yeah. And with the gliders too. Cause like,
Yeah.
I want to say she's kind of like one of those Renaissance, what's the phrase? Like a Renaissance man?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like the female version of that. I've seen from her like Instagram or maybe her Twitter or her like email distro thing. She goes on adventures with her dogs, like hiking and shit. So like I would not even be phased if she's gone and made her own hang glider and has like a botany doctorate. Like that checks out.
I mean, that's cool though. Like,
because I think she like relocates every couple of years. Like she's lived all over the West Coast, just like hiking and adventuring. It's kind of like that's rad as fuck. You're like an indie author and you just kind of write books when you're not having adventures. She needs to write a book about herself.
I would read that book. That sounds
I would
super,
too.
She sounds like an interesting person.
That's the vibe I've gotten from her like email distros and all of her little like newsletter things. I could be totally making this up, but I swear to God.
That's also like the exact opposite of you and I. Like we are.
Yep.
Give us a cup of coffee and, a rainy day and we'll just stay inside and read all day.
Yeah.
That's our adventure.
The most adventure that I like is like a walk.
Yeah. A walk around the neighborhood with the doggos.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe even into a national park, but on well-established trails only for, 15 minutes and then come back around.
Well, we live in the like murder capital of the US. So
Exactly. Yeah. No, thank you. I'm not trying to get murdered out in the woods and be on some true crime podcast.
No, that happens often enough here in the state. We can just skip right over that.
Yep. Nope. Not trying to die today.
I just realized I said doggo, like, and that is a pet peeve of mine. Like, it's like
doggo?
such a yeah.
Doggo is what they're called.
Yeah, it just got so overused, I think.
I could see that.
Online.
Yeah. But still, doggo. Like, I think it just like a, dog hanging out, just doing dog things. And it's like, hey, look, there's a doggo. It's different than a dog. A dog is like kind of scary, almost like unknown dog. Doggo is just one of those like doggos hanging around, just vibing, chomping on some snacks.
I had no idea there was such a distinct difference.
I don't know. That's the difference I see, but
I mean, yeah, fair. Because I know my younger dog looks like a dog with a capital D, but he is pure doggo on the inside, terrified of everything.
Yep. That's how it's the whole looks like a cinnamon roll is a cinnamon roll. We talked about this the other episodes. Yeah. Because my dogs are the same. Like one of them looks like a dog with a capital D, but is a doggo. And then the other one looks like a doggo, but he's kind of an asshole. Yeah.
Yep.
Checks out. Another question. Did we talk about how original and unique this book was?
We did before we started recording.
Oh, okay. Well, on the record.
Oh, no. I'll try to tone down the sarcasm on this question. So this book was very unique. I don't think I've ever read zombie elves, math puzzles.
Sea serpent.
sea serpent, reindeer, pirates, Dewey Decimal System. Like, we listed this all out before. Like, I have never read all of these elements in one book before, not even an entire series before.
No. Yeah.
And it
But
sounds...
no good. We're both doing the awkward, like, no, you go. No, you go. I feel like it was all the aspects, obviously were unique, but I kind of feel like the storyline was almost a little bit unique. Like, I don't think I've ever read a story that you have a character who's off to do something for her kingdom and then all of a sudden gets pulled into this adventure to like help someone, and just the nuances of the story were fairly unique. Like, yeah, we like to make fun of the whole like sea serpent, Vorg, Gumby, et cetera thing. But I feel like at its bones, it's still like a unique story, because a lot of fantasy romance today is just the same fucking story repackaged with a heroine with different colored hair.
That's fair. I'll grant you that. This was definitely... And maybe that's why this was a frustrating read for me, because it was original. I wish it had been better.
Yeah.
So just now, if she had structured this so that, and this kind of would have played better into the kidnapping angle. So let's say that Princess Aldari has been corresponding with the Elven Prince via like messenger pigeon and these letters.
Ooh.
And the Elven Prince has been explaining, hey, we have this, centuries old problem and our people are cursed and we think you can solve it. And so if there had been like an established communication where she's like thinking about this problem, she knows it exists, and the connection with the Elven Prince is established already. And then out of nowhere, there's Elven Mercery comes and kidnaps her and doesn't reveal that he's in fact the Elven Prince, that he's like that has been communicating with her. Like that, that would have made it better for me.
That would have been so fun. I also think it's funny because I feel like we're just taking some of our favorite parts from
Crown Duel. Yeah.
Yep, Crown Duel, and just like applying them to other situations. But that would be so much fun. Or like, because at the beginning, it talks about how she writes all of these, like doctorate thesis or whatever under her pen name. It would be fun if she was like assessing the Elf Kingdom situation beforehand. And so she had all this like knowledge and like interest, and then she like runs away to go solve their problems. Because I also, it's just kind of glossed over why it's her that's getting married to the King of Orith and not her older sister. Because that, I was thinking about it when I was like writing up my notes this morning or last night. And that kind of threw me for a loop, because like, why is it her and not her sister?
I want to say that was touched on in the beginning, and the older sister is the crown princess, I want to say. So maybe she's inheriting the kingdom. So Aldari would need to like go off to Orith.
That makes sense. Because it'd be fun too if she had like this internal fight about like doing the right thing versus having an adventure, and she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go have the adventure, instead of like the adventure being thrust upon her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like just a little bit of, I think just more background, like something to justify her actions, why she completely stepped away from serving her country. Like if she had shown any kind of interest or knowledge or investment in the Elf Kingdom prior to all this happening, it would make way more sense.
Yeah, because I was thinking too that they kind of launch immediately into the story like fairly quickly, because we have the one chapter that's like the library scene where, her and Thelly are out in the local library and the two mercenaries showed up. But then it immediately goes to them starting their trip. So it'd be kind of cool if there was some kind of chapter at the beginning that kind of delves more into setting the scene a little bit before we immediately have to make like a moral call of whether we're okay with her being kidnapped or not.
Yeah, exactly. Huh.
I love your idea though. Someone needs to do like a remix of this.
Well, maybe Lindsay will revisit this book later on, and
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Do an edit.
Second edition.
Second edition of the Elf Tangent. That's actually another great lead-in for probably our last question. What do you think of the book's title?
Oh my God.
How does it relate to the book's contents? What other title might you choose, Katie?
I was triggered when I finally fucking connected the dots of what the elf tangent meant. It made me mad, but mad in like a I'm stupid kind of way. But so I guess in hindsight, it's probably a very good title, but I would have preferred something else, I think.
You know what? I think it's kind of a weird title.
It is.
There's definitely a title like formula that's out and about. Like you have like the Court of X and X, or like the Serpent and the Dove. Like it's a pairing title thing.
Yeah. So I appreciate the fact that it like wasn't a pairing title, because that just, I get books confused because I'm like, oh, was this court of this and this, or was it the other court of this and this, or was it the kingdom of this and this?
Yeah.
So I appreciated it, but any word besides tangent, it just immediately, triggers my AP calculus like PTSD.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I had to ask you though.
It's fine. It was a good question.
All the
just immediately got triggered. Yeah. But it was a fun. What is it? It's called like an equivocation, right? When it's used in two different contexts. Because there was a couple of that. Because it was both a tangent, because it's a tangent from her journey to Orith, and also a tangent because of math.
Yeah, math.
Gross.
Said with so much disdain.
That should be our episode title.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
So keeping in the trend of us establishing the episode title somewhere in the middle and then having a breaking the fourth wall moment.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth where we've picked the title before we started recording, and then we realized that, no, we just tend to come up with a better one as we roll.
Yep. It just happens naturally, Mm-hmm. Well, do you want to have the honors of announcing our next book?
Well, yes, I picked the next book. Yes. So we are reading The Undying King by Grace Draven?
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, and just be forewarned, there are so many weird names in this next book that we're going to mutilate them, just like we did with Crown Duel. It's going to be an adventure.
Yep, staying on trend.
But we did pick this book because we have both read, I think it's
Master
called
Crows.
Master of Crows. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, okay, so that is an excellent book, but it is rather hefty.
Yes.
And we wanted to do a novella. So I've read this one before. Katie has not. And yeah, so that's why we picked this one, and more to follow on that.
Mm-hmm. I will say though, Master of Crows, if you have not read it, I've probably read it like 2 or 3 times, frankly. Excellent book. So that's like a second one. If you liked this one, or you want to have your book instead of a novella, definitely recommend that one. But also the spice level is a little bit higher than our previous books.
Yeah, this is definitely an adult romantic fantasy. There is no YA, there's no new A, and that goes for The Undying King and Master of Crows. But like, to second you on this one, I would honestly rather you readers read Master of Crows before you read The Undying King.
Yes.
I would put it at like the top 10 in the like romance fantasy genre, frankly.
Master of Crows?
Mm-hmm.
I would too. It's like definitely slept on, because I don't think I had ever heard about it or had it on my TBR list until like it randomly popped up for like either like free 99 or like, a couple dollars. And I was like, oh, I'll just like read this. And I was like, God damn, this was like a really good book.
Yeah, like the book is good, and her like this author has great writing, like very descriptive.
Yes. Uh-huh.
The level of like the English level is like higher in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of romance books, especially recently, has been this is going to sound bad, but like everyone hopping on the bandwagon without necessarily having the literature or like English capability behind it to read something that's kind of more, I don't know the right word, but her books though have that kind of literary power behind it, but then kind of applied to a romance setting, which is unique. I don't know many
Yeah,
authors
it's
that can do
hard to
that.
find that. And her books, she's got several out. And what the nice thing is, most of them are standalones.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not committing to a full series. Um, but there's always a romance angle. Every single book has a very, very strong romance angle, which makes them, I'd say, a little bit more pleasant to read.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like those the Instagram reels and TikToks where it's like you get 200 pages in, you're like, where the fuck is the romance? Like, what am I reading?
yeah. No, there's never a doubt. Like, it's going to happen. Grace Draven. I'm just going to go with Draven. Are you good
That
with
works.
that? So she reminds me of Juliette Marillier, if I'm pronouncing that author correctly. She wrote Daughter of the Forest.
Oh, yeah. They are very similar. This is like the upgraded smut version.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So Daughter of the Forest is I would say that's literature. It's very, very well
Yeah.
written and well done. This is definitely a little bit spicier. It's the
Mm-hmm.
spicy version of that, but same kind of
Yeah.
English, same kind of writing.
Yeah. It's like so there's certain romances that are like the what is it called when you order a drink and you just want like the house alcohol added to it? You know what I'm talking about?
Well drinks.
Yeah, well drinks. So that's most romance. And then Grace Draven is like the extra, $10 alcohol to your mixed drink.
Yeah, that I couldn't have put it
Yep.
any better. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So all of those like good things out there about Grace Draven. Oh my God.
That's going to be a nightmare. We'll just say just Grace.
Yeah, I will say. So we have both already finished The Undying King. A little bit of spoilers here. We didn't love it as much. It does have some problems to it. But there's a lot of good to be found in it, and mostly just as a stepping stone to her other books.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you could just bypass it and then come back when you're like, oh, I need more.
Yeah. Don't let this be your introductory book to this author.
Yeah. Just read Master of Crows. That's basically the summation of.
Please read Master of Crows, and we promise to review that one later.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think did we hit everything we needed to?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Did we?
Well, if we didn't, we're in trouble. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna call us out, sign us off, maybe. All right. From our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Music. Thanks for listening.